Hello, this is Angelo Stralopa, CEO of Positivity Coaching, and you're listening to my podcast. Hello, everyone. We're having today here with us Jennifer Starr. Jennifer has a passion for partnering with those who are committed to finding their authentic voice and clarity of purpose to more powerfully impact positive change in the world through their own style of evolving mastery. She has been coaching, training, and mentor coaching for over 20 years, achieving her Master Certified Coach MCC credential in 2010. She has been delivering coach certification training and mentor coach certification at Invite Change since 2002, and more recently co-developed a program called Conversations to Mastery for experienced coaches who want to take their coaching to the MCC level of personal mastery. Jennifer has been a very successful entrepreneur for over 30 years, so a lot of experience there. She weaves creativity, humor, spirituality, and imagination into all aspects of her work with others to open up new pathways to awareness and raise consciousness on the planet. Though she is a gypsy at heart and travels extensively, her home base is in Sisters, Oregon, where she enjoys nature, hiking, photography, and painting. So welcome again, Jennifer.
Aww.
And I got very curious about how you weave spirituality and imagination.
Well, thank you. It's so fun to actually hear that, except it makes me feel old, right? To hear how everything kind of came together in someone else's voice. So thank you, Angelos. How I weave spirituality in. I guess the first thing that's really important is, how do I define what spirituality is, right? Isn't that true for each of us?
Yeah.
For me, I'm working with whole people. People are complex, so there's a multidimensional aspect to every one of us. There's the physical aspect, the emotional, the mental, the creative. That there's so many aspects to us. I like to think of the overarching consciousness of who we are, whether we're aware of it or not, as that whole picture of us. And just like I have my blind spots, I don't see myself completely clearly at all times, especially when I get activated by something out in the world or by an emotional experience. I might not see my wholeness. And so what I mean when I'm saying weaving spirituality in, one layer of that is supporting others in seeing aspects of themselves that they aren't aware of. Sort of holding up a cosmic mirror. How about that? So that they can see beyond what they think about regularly. They can see beyond what they see in the mirror, the actual mirror, but they're seeing more of their core essence. Maybe they're the part of them that's beyond their role, their identification, that higher place. Many people come to me because of the word spirituality, because they're really wanting to seek what does it mean for me? Where do I go with it? How do I find more meaning in my life? And each one of us is going to find our own spiritual path, and we're going to define it in whatever way we define it. But what I find as a common denominator with everybody I work with is I want to know myself better. I want to be fulfilling my highest potential. I want to know what's going to give me a sense of purpose and meaning, and who am I at my most authentic, true self when all of me gets to express. That's a tricky business, isn't it?
It is. It is. And it kind of reminded me that quote that says something like, I don't recall exactly, it says revisiting the past and designing inventing a new future is the same journey. And you said something about that you implied that you need to get to know yourself, become awareness of who you are. And I think you somehow get the notion of identity, who I am and the purpose. And but I love how it comes out with your words, and I'm also curious how you weave creativity with spirituality.
When you fed my words back to me, I got an image. I see things in pictures a lot, but to me, they're interwoven naturally. Our spirituality is our creativity. It's our ability to use our imagination, to be able to use our physical hands, our brains, our hearts. It's when we are connected to something that is a greater expression of ourselves, there's this natural flow that kicks in, like ideas start to come to mind. We've all had the experience of feeling completely stuck, right? Where I've been on a flow in my business for several years, and suddenly this year it's just like, what am I doing? What is the purpose of what I'm doing? I'm not even sure that what I'm saying is really mine anymore. That kind of questioning of, I'm not feeling energized by the work that I'm doing anymore. What's going on? I've tried everything. I've taken podcasts and courses and read books and talked to mentors, and I'm not finding it. I'm stuck. There's something about working with people that feel stuck in sort of taking the viewfinder that they're looking through and expanding it so they can see things in the periphery that weren't evident before. And to do that playfully, to do that imaginatively, like a child would do it. Wow, if this were a story and you were walking down a path and suddenly there is a wall in front of you that's too huge to climb or to navigate, and you're just right there. If you were to really imagine, what would I do? I can't go back because the road behind me no longer fits me. What would you do next? The imagination, and it's like ideas start to pop. Like, I would probably sit down and cry, or I would rage and pound on the wall. That'd be the first thing I do. How would your body feel as you're doing that? I'm frustrated, I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm depressed, whatever the feeling is, it's like, if you knew that you could see from a different perspective, if you knew that there was another way of looking at this that would give you a different experience, where would you begin? What would you do? What story comes to mind? Or when you were a kid, what was a fairy tale or a hero that you used to admire? What would they do? If this wall in front of you could be made out of anything, what would you turn it into? What would be different? So just really playing with possibility. Now, some people are just stuck and they don't want to play. my job is to simply be with their wholeness, to simply be with them. And let them know that where they are is exactly allowed. It's okay. It's not only okay, it's necessary before something next can actually ever happen, is to be where they are and what do they need. So I guess for me, I meet people spontaneously where they are. You can't pre-think this. There's no like magical formula that I've ever found. It's when you meet someone with your heart and your soul and your awareness, your perception, your sensitivity, you come with your whole self, you can be with someone in their whole self.
Mm.
And then there's a synergy that can happen. Like we're sharing this space together. It's sacred. This is sacred space. Whatever we're sharing in this space is sacred. It matters. What do we want to create in this space together?
I hear all these very powerful words that you use and images come into mind. Like you talked about the viewpoint, the viewmaster.
The
I think
viewfinder, like the aperture on a camera.
Yeah, like that toy that we used to have when we were
Oh,
kids.
yes.
Yes,
That's a real viewfinder.
the viewfinder. Yes, you're right. Right. And it's like, and I think, and then you talk also about what would your favorite hero do? And it's like an invite into imagination. And I got that instantly. I got that image of putting my eyes inside the viewfinder, and I think that was somehow driven by the intention to see something magical in front of your eyes, just like that. Something different will appear in front of your eyes. And then I realized that even in the current days, there are big corporations like Microsoft and Facebook and Apple who are preparing all those, how they call it, HoloLens and all these virtual mixed and augmented reality, which is, I would say, if you allow me this, practically the same thing. You put something in front of your eyes and you expect everything to change instantly.
but it can. It can. that, but all this technology, it's like we have the ability to do this in our own being without ever adding anything to us.
Mm.
If I were to just imagine with every person sitting in front of me that is actually seeking to better understand their situation or who they are, or what they want, it's first we have to have a space that we can make exclusively our own, that we're sharing this space together. But the next thing is I have to put my blindfold on to my world. I have to just blot everything out like you do with the viewfinder, where you're just looking through into their world. So the rest falls away. My focus is take me into your world and explain it to me as if I had a blindfold on. Describe it to me. What's it feel like? What's that feel like in your body? What are you seeing when you look out there? Who is your adversary? Who are your allies? Where is it that you're hoping to go? When you say that, what do you mean? These are all the kind of questions like, I can't see, I can't assume, I can try to imagine what their world is like, but I can't really do that unless I allow myself to fully step in. You remember, Angelos, what it felt like when someone stepped into your world and began to see you and hear you and understand what you meant when you were describing it? How valuable that was to actually realize, oh my gosh, there is someone here that is committed sincerely to me. Then a magic.
Yeah.
Then that's what you're looking into, something bigger than either one of you can actually see. It becomes bigger.
Yeah, and I'm experiencing connection as well.
Well, that has to come first.
So imagination.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what you're describing is this in order to increase your imagination, or is imagination a vehicle of exploring spiritual landscapes better? And I don't know, and talking about imagination, it comes into my mind that you do a lot of paintings. Mm-hmm. And I think you are very good at painting landscapes. I don't recall what else you like to paint, but I'm wondering, does this come from, is that a means to increase what you said, open up your the periphery, your periphery, or is it the other way around? How does it work for you, Jennifer?
I just happen to be a visual artist. That's my expression of creativity. I have a best friend that calls herself uncreative, and yet she dresses in a way that expresses herself, and her house expresses it. Someone else is using their camera. I love photography too. I think of you, Angelos, right now. I'm looking at your room, your office that you're in, and that image, that art right behind you.
This one, yeah.
What made you pick it?
It is the colors, of course, and the aesthetics, and what it how it feels for me. So where my heart is, but there's also these are some symbols, of course. But
I'm sorry, I missed that. These are what?
Yeah, these are some kind of symbols, and yes. So
what does that? What's important about that for you?
It's the important. Yeah. So as you put it right now, is that opens up my mind instead of closing it down. It's something which is somehow abstract, but is very, it shows something. It has a shape of a shadow of an angel at the top, and there is symmetry. There are nice lines, thick lines, and there are nice colors that blend. I mean, the aesthetics are great, but it does not dictate to me to think in a specific way. I think it allows me to open up and be who I am.
Yes. That is the creative imagination at work, because you know what opens your heart. You know the colors, you know the feeling. You know, there's a curiosity, almost like I'm hearing a little boy that's just going, look, the symbols, what do they mean? You know, it's not concrete and clear for me. There's a dynamic quality as you describe it, and you also come alive as you're describing it. Like you love this image. So what happened for you just now as we put the attention onto your artwork?
As you said, you were very right. I remember that this painting was in the wall of the office, but ever since the pandemic, we have stopped working. Everybody started working from home. So I said, there's one thing. Why should I leave this beautiful thing, stay here alone for I don't know how long? And why should we be divided?
Yeah.
And I said, let's bring it on home.
So it's an expression of you. This beautiful thing is an expression of you.
Yeah.
One of the fun activities is, as I learn more about what makes people connect with themselves or express themselves more fully, we experiment with things. It's what would that beautiful piece of art tell you about the situation you're stuck in? If you were to actually be quiet and listen to what this piece of art has to give you as far as wisdom. That's an example of using the imagination in a completely, unique way, because there is a voice that beautiful expression opens up in you. But first I had to learn what it was about that piece that was interesting to you to know where to begin and where to explore. when I was a kid and people would say, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I would say, I want to be an artist. And it was like, and I did go to college. And, I studied psychology and that's all good. But what I really loved were all my art classes because I wanted to be an artist. So I listen to the outside world and the way things are. You can't make money as an artist unless you're really, really exceptional. And, and so eventually I went into business and other things. And 20 years later, a creative coach, I hired a creative coach to help me rediscover the artist within me. And I was afraid I would look like a 7-year-old making stick figures. I figured I probably lost it.
Mm-hmm.
And she was brilliant because she tried different things to activate my own imagination about what would I create if I could? What would it feel like? What would the colors be? What would it look like? What would the theme be? How would you want someone to feel that looks at it? How do you want to feel? And so, I took an art class and I got back into it, 20 some years later, and it's a place of joy. So when I think I reconnected with that childlike, imaginative, playful artist that I was when I was so confident in school, brought that back into my life, everything in my life became more magical like that. It's not the same for everybody. For some people, it's technology. For some people, it's athletics. For some people, it's, getting in the middle of the wilderness and exploring nature. For everybody, it's different. But that we all have a common theme. At some level, we want to reconnect with our whole self, not just the pieces that we've been told are acceptable, but our whole self.
This is funny. We have never talked about that. So I remember when I was young, or a little bit younger, a lot more younger. Anyway, so it's still at school with that far back. I would love to. I was not saying I want to become an artist, but I wanted to do something about music and playing guitar and things like that. So I got stuck into those beliefs as pretty similar to what you shared. So I started business studies, and then I started my career in business and so on. But of course, I had this thing inside of me. So I was starting doing music at some point, as a side project. And I remember that there were fun times, but I think what was really magical for me, the moments that I was in flow was when I was being creative, when I was doing what I loved the most, not about arriving somewhere, just, staying there and playing or creating, or however you want to call it, because it speaks to my soul. And I noticed that your website has to do with soul, yourcoachwithsoul.com, right? So.
I know. I think back and I think not just Coach with Soul, everyone is soul, right? Everyone has soul. But for me, that word matters because there's a deeper aspect of all of us that knows why it's here, that it's like a silent observer and witness of our life. And I think there's a depth of beingness that we all have access to, and we find that connection in different ways. But we lose it a lot of times. We lose that connection. So how do we reconnect with it? What you're speaking of too when you're describing it is being in the present moment. When we're present in the moment and everything is all right. Everything in this moment is fine. When our mind goes abstractly to what's not right, it's almost always out of the present moment.
Yeah, so it's just being there and being and doing what you love doing, and because it makes you feel something that cannot be put into words, but it's something which is the only thing that you want to do. And that's, I think, the more brightest and the purest sense of your existence. And I'm wondering, as we're saying all these things, because I'm wondering whether you feel or you have come to find that these things, these inquiries also apply to leaders in your practice.
Every human being.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter who I'm working with. It could be an executive leader of an organization. How do they know when they're in right alignment with themselves? They do know. They do know. It's finding their way of being effective, of fulfilling what it is that they're trying to achieve, and being willing to look into the shadows. You know, what's invisible to me that is a barrier to being a leader, to being an effective leader, to inspiring, to changing the way things are done, to changing these systems that don't work well. What's my flavor of making an impact? So I have that's maybe the spiritual aspect of how I see the world is less about the role, less about the external responsibilities, less about the sort of the effects, and more about the cause. That it's each one of us has the capacity to thriving wherever we are, and for continually evolving and expanding into better versions of ourselves, however we choose to define that. Mm-hmm. So for me, I've always been somewhat of a generalist, because it doesn't matter who I'm working with. It's always the same topics about, I've done what I've been doing all along. It used to satisfy me. It's not. It used to be effective, and now it's not. The same themes keep showing up. What's my next expression of stepping into my full leadership or my full capacity? What is that next place to go? So we can start with very logistic, very tactical goals and approaches, but really when it boils down to it, what makes someone successful or not successful is how connected they are with themselves and their own authentic expression. How connected they are with their organization, with the field that they share with others, with the vision or the mission.
Authentic expression, I'm with you, yeah. Yes, these are some of the themes that I think are very important in our work. So this is a great conversation, but I think it's somehow coming to an end. So how would you like this podcast to end today, Jennifer?
Well, I just want to thank you. It's always fun to be with you, Angelos. And I think for me, the things that we have talked about are intangible things. Once someone connects with themselves in a way that there's a better understanding in this moment in time, then the effects of that awareness and that choice and that intentionality of what to do with that becomes a tangible, and that those are the concrete results are always there. For me, it's like bookends. It's what are you here for? And then the exploration is an adventure. It's creative. It's imaginative. It's I'm a traveler, so it's a journey. But then there's this other. What are you taking away from this that matters to you, and what are you going to do with it that's concrete and real that will make a difference? And how will that change your life? How will that change the lives around you? And then the rest is it's going to happen.
So let's see.
We aren't hanging out there in the ethers forever, I'm telling you.
Let's see how will that change your life and the lives of those who are listening to this podcast. Let's become curious. How can this and how will this change your life? Mm-hmm. And witness and find out. Thank you very, very much, Jennifer.
Thank you, Angelos. Thank you. I appreciate being here with you.
This was wonderful. Thank you very much. This is Angelos Trolupas, and you can listen to my podcast on Spotify, Apple, and Google.